Well, welcome. I am Tony Armour, the film commissioner for St. Pete-Clearwater, Florida, and this is the first of our web series podcast for the St. Pete-Clearwater Film Commission. Today, I have with me Paul Guzzo, who is a writer for the Tampa Tribune and also a filmmaker. And we are at Three Daughters Brewing in downtown St. Petersburg, and this is a spectacular location that is available for filming and for filmmakers, commercial use, whatever you want. And they've been gracious enough to let us come in here and film today and kind of show you guys some highlights of the location and what they've got going on here. So why don't we cut to those clips now? So, as you can see, this is really a great, unique location. There are a lot of different things you can do here. There was just a big concert here. The Wilson Band with Patrick Wilson, Paul Wilson, and Mark Wilson just did a huge concert here. So it was a great location for doing that as well. So if you want to find anything out about shooting in this particular location, just contact St. Pete-Clearwater Film Commission. Go to our website, filmspc.com, and we'll hook you up with the people here at Three Daughters. So some of the other stuff we want to talk about, we just wrapped up the weekend with George Takei. Just had George Takei in town, where we were shooting promotional videos all over town with George. He's here to promote the area and promote the destination and the locations that we have here. So it should be pretty spectacular. We'll let you guys take a little look at some of those clips here as well.
Yeah, there was a stumble.
No problem.
And action.
Live Amplified in St. Petersburg, Clearwater, Florida.
And cut.
You got it. Kevin's Adventure, scene 23 Delta.
Tony, you have another director there.
Fred has a second career.
Right, everybody set up.
I think this scene needs a...
I think what this story needs is a little more action.
Okay. And everybody settled, and action.
I think what this story needs is a little more action.
All right.
So Paul, in addition to being a writer for the Tampa Tribune, is also a filmmaker and has been a filmmaker himself over the years. Paul, why don't you give us a little intro into you and what you do?
Well, we haven't made a film in a few years. Life's kind of gotten us busy. It's been about 2 years since we made our last one. But yeah, along with my brother Pete, we've made probably about 10 films over the years. I think most people in Tampa know us best for our documentary on Charlie Wall, the old Ybor City gangster. That seems to be the one that people know us best for locally. Then we did, I think the one that did best for us in film festivals was Cage Dream, the short MMA film we did. It showed for about 3 years in film festivals around the world. And then 2 years ago we did Who is Delson, which was a mockumentary that's available through most distribution outlets. So yeah, we've been, we stayed pretty busy for about 12 years making films, but like as I said, for the past 2 years we've kind of taken a break, but we are making a new one soon.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Good. Can you talk at all about the new film you're making?
It's going to be a short film, just to kind of get back into it. I got busy with the Tribune. My brother's been over at Home Shopping Network doing a lot of work, so we kind of got, like I said, caught up in things, but it's going to be a short drama, I guess is all I can say.
Okay.
For now.
All right. Well, we'll be surprised. We'll look for that at those local film festivals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we'll be showing it around here
as well. So, and Cage Dreams was really good. That I did see that played really well in the area. Who is Delson? I know I've heard a lot of good things. A lot of people on that screened at the local festivals. Sunscreen Film Festival and Gasparilla International Film Festival, the two local ones. There's no point in hiding it. Everybody knows I'm the co-founder of Sunscreen. But yeah, we've got some great film festivals locally as well too. So anyway, so some different things we want to chat a little bit about today. One of the things that's kind of on the forefront of filmmaking right now, especially for independent filmmakers, is filming with drones.
Yeah.
These little helicopters, remote control helicopters, essentially you can attach cameras to. It's kind of a fascinating thing because as a film commission, we are actually not allowed to permit for drones because the FAA hasn't really allowed you to permit with drones until there was actually just a recent development. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, the drones is a bureaucratic mess. what they're what the FAA is saying is they're not allowed to be used for commercial use at all, and if you use them, we're going to fine you, and the most recent fine they gave out was $10,000. The federal courts came back and said, you don't have jurisdiction. You cannot fine these people $10,000, so it's not being upheld. So you have the federal court saying one thing, the FAA saying another. So the Congress said, get your game together, figure something out. We just can't have two different people saying two different things. We can't have random people flying drones everywhere. We need a set of guidelines. So the FAA has yet to release their official protocol for what's going to be done, but they have started granting exemptions, meaning we will allow you to fly a drone for commercial use and not come after you, but you need to apply for an exemption with us. So they've granted 7 exemptions to 7 different production companies. The basic rules are you can't fly higher than 400 feet because 500 feet and above is where airplanes can fly. You can't fly within X amount of miles of an airport. Has to be a closed set. You can't be within, I believe, was it 100 feet of somebody who's not part of the drone flying crew.
Yeah.
And anybody flying the drone has to be certified. You need a certified pilot on set. So it's all those rules. So while me and you still can't just as filmmakers decide to use a drone and go out and fly one for a production, we could apply for an exemption to the FAA saying, look, we have pilots flying these drones, we'll be using a closed set, we are certified, and then they'll say, look, you are qualified to use one, you particularly allowed to use one. And then they can now come to you and get a permit because they have the federal government saying they're allowed.
Right, yeah. So it's really fascinating because, I see all the time, I see whether it's a commercial or promotional video or, independent film or a feature, whatever, and I see drone shots, like drone shot. And and people are they're just shooting them. They're just not getting permission. They're shooting it because, the FAA, it's not like they have a team of people who are out there looking for people shooting with drones to find them. Really the only way someone's going to get in trouble is if you do something stupid and crash it into someone and hurt somebody or something.
I know you as a film commissioner don't want to hear this, but these filmmakers can still use the drone.
Absolutely.
If they're on a closed set, if they are not in a public space, they don't need to apply for a permit.
Right.
If they're in somebody's backyard filming, and then so the only way at that point they could get caught is if somebody called the FAA. Now, even at that point, the FAA would have to prove that they're using this footage for a film for commercial purposes.
Right.
So they can use the excuse, say, oh, I'm just filming this for fun, and then sell it to a film to be used in a production company, or give it to them to be used, and then that company could then use it for money. As long as the person operating the drone is not using it for profit, they can give it to someone else to be used for profit.
Because obviously, remote control planes and helicopters and cars has been around for years for hobby purposes. These are toys that people essentially have had for years. And so if you're using it for a hobby purpose, the FAA can't shut you down for using it as a hobby. It's only if you're using it commercial. So there are a lot of ways around it, and if you're on private property and everything discussed. So it's an interesting thing, and they'll get it figured out eventually, but as with anything in government, it's
if anything,
taking a while.
what this showed, the 7 exemptions, is the power of the Motion Picture Association of America. These 7 companies that were approved had the backing of the Motion Picture Association of America. Prior to these 7 exemptions, the only time the FAA has allowed for drones to be used for commercial use were by pipeline companies in remote areas of Alaska.
Right.
Now, drones are also used for search and find missions by law enforcement, used by farmers. Those are still banned. So the fact that drones have been allowed to be used for Hollywood purposes before law enforcement has been allowed to use them for search and find missions, I think shows the power of the Motion Picture Association of America and the film industry in the United States.
Right, and so that's really fascinating. Because law enforcement is going out and using the drones.
Yeah.
Who's going to tell a police department or a sheriff's department you can't use it? Who's going to complain to them? Because who are they going to call? You're going to call the police to complain. Police aren't going to call the FAA and say, by the way, we're doing something we're not supposed to do, and it's just this weird.
And for people who might complain, there's a legitimate reason why they're worried. These drones, true, they might only weigh even 15 pounds once they have a camera hooked up to them, but still, if 15 pounds falls 400 feet from the air, hits somebody in the head, it's going to hurt. And if these drone operators don't know what they're doing, and they fly at 500-600 feet in the air like an idiot, now look, most people will tell you there's never a reason to fly a drone more than 150 feet in the air when you're shooting for film, but if they could screw around, fly the thing high up enough in the air, and it does at that point become a danger for airlines. So because of a few people who might not know what they're doing, the rest of the industry does have to be punished for it, but that's just the way it goes.
Well, and just like with anything else, there's going to be that one person who does something really stupid, and that'll be, that tipping point where, then all of a sudden everyone will pay attention to it. It'll be all over news, whether, things that have been happening for years, but it'll be that one thing is going to happen at some point.
Another issue people would have to realize in Tampa, no Tampa company has gotten an exemption.
Yeah.
But for instance, in downtown Tampa, you'll never be able to get an exemption to shoot one there because of Davis Island Airport.
Right.
You will not be allowed to be within X amount of miles of an airline. And if you do have to film, it's going to be extraordinary circumstances for hoops you're going to have to jump through to work with the airport.
And something else that's interesting as well. So you have these drone companies, it's essentially one guy or two guys that own these drones and they're flying around and everything. They're charging, daily rates where you could still rent a helicopter and take a helicopter out instead. And the helicopter, that's all covered. It's, as long as it's a pilot, FAA, whatever, you can go out and do that. For the film commission promotional piece that we're shooting, we actually had a helicopter out last weekend with cameras filming with a helicopter. So, we're following all the rules and regulations here and not filming with a drone. But we did have a helicopter out, and so we'll have some spectacular shots.
That's gonna be cool looking.
Yeah, it'll be great. So I can't wait to really show that stuff off. So stay tuned for that. November 18th is when we're going to have that out. So kind of moving on. There's not like a real natural segue into that, but staying in the digital space. This is kind of the technology we're living in today. Netflix is doing some really interesting things. That's really not making theater chain companies happy at all, and they're giving a little bit of pushback on that. So there's a film coming up. You're familiar with what Netflix is doing, the IMAX thing. So why don't you talk a little bit?
You're talking about Adam Sandler signing up?
Yeah, Adam Sandler signing up.
Multi-film deal for Netflix, and movie theaters are freaking out because now you already had major stars agreeing to do straight to Netflix television shows, and now Amazon's getting into the picture on that. So now when you've got major stars doing this for big time films going right to Netflix, movie theaters have to be getting nervous.
Yeah.
But we've been through this before. I'm sure when television came out, at first movie theaters, people were saying, and then cable, and then Blockbuster, and then DVD. So it morphs. I'm not an expert on this in terms of what the future holds, but if I had to guess, just blockbusters. It's just movie theaters will stick to major blockbusters.
Yeah. It's a consistent pattern in the entertainment industry, whether you talk about music when Napster first came out and the music industry couldn't catch on with the whole digital thing, and it killed physical CDs and that sort of stuff. So everything is now digital downloads. Well, the film industry is going the same way. Back, like I said, you go back to the 1950s when television became very popular. Film. Theaters started doing all these crazy things. 3D, that's why originally 3D came along. Then, the ultra widescreen formats that they did. And then some interesting things that they did in the 1950s as well was smell-o-vision. Are you familiar with it? Or ever heard about smell-o-vision before?
I thought that was just something from Futurama.
No, smell-o-vision, what they actually used to do, this is in theaters in the 1950s, they would pump in, these different smells as things were happening in the film. So you had this point in a film when somebody's walking through a field of roses and they'd be pumping in rose smells. And then a little later on, something else is happening. They're pumping in the smell of, chicken or whatever. But the problem was, those smells don't dissipate. So the theater would smell like roses and then chicken, whatever. And so by the time you were done watching a movie, you had all these disparate scents, like all kind of mixing together in the theater. And I, of course, wasn't around at that point in time, but apparently it was fairly foul smelling. So smell-o-vision didn't last real long.
That's crazy.
And now, of course, some of the things theaters are doing, IMAX, 3D, the D-Box thing, where the chair shakes and all that kind of stuff.
I got an interesting press release the other day, and I can't remember the company doing it because I'm not writing about it because it's not coming to the Tampa Bay area. But there are some cities in Florida doing, or these films that would be considered somewhere in between indie films and Hollywood films. Right. They're independent films, but they're big budget.
Sure.
And when you go to the screenings for select screenings, you'll get to have an interactive Q&A with the director and some of the actors through the movie screen.
Yeah.
And they're doing it in a lot of major cities coming up. I think they're going to launch it after the first of the year. And again, unfortunately, Tampa Bay area is not in that, which we would consider the beta, the first step. But I think that's something films like that are going to have to do to get people to come out to the movie theater to see it. It offers you that film festival experience, no matter where you are. And I think if you have the opportunity to interact and ask a question to a director or a star, it might entice some people to come out to the theater. So I guess that's some of the innovative methods that these films are going to go to.
Yeah, and like you said before, really the way that theatrical is going, has been going for the last couple of years, and the way it's going to continue to go, it's only going to be your major $200 million blockbusters that go to the theater. You know, you're going to see less and less of small independent films. You know, the window of, you know, video on demand release of a film, if you miss, you know, Jon Favreau's Chef, which I didn't have a chance to see in the theater, but heard great things about, it's on VOD now. So, you know, it was only a couple months. All right, great, I can catch it on VOD.
And they have to do this because, look, the ideal market that they always want to reach is what, that 18 to 30 age range. And I'm out of that age range now, but yeah, the teenagers don't even watch television. I read these studies where it just shows how much internet television viewing is increasing by the year. I mean, I think it was like 35 million people watch something online, meaning like a television show, like a day. And you see, I don't know YouTube stars, but there are these YouTube stars that some of these teenagers see are bigger than seeing Brad Pitt. So you need to reach them, and if they're watching things online and they're the target demographic, they're going to spend money, then you have to find a way to reach them. You can't beg them to come to you. You have to go to them, and if this is their medium of choice, then that's where the films are going to go.
Well, and so here's the interesting thing. Speaking on that point, Variety actually just had a big article they ran where they surveyed, you know, kids in that 18-year-old age range and younger, and YouTube stars are more recognizable to them than a Brad Pitt or Leonardo DiCaprio or anything like that. The average age of someone who goes to the theater is getting older and older, and you know it's baby boomers, you know, Generation X, they still go to the movies, but even Generation X, you know, now they're busy now, they have kids, so video on demand is really, really easy, and so millennials are really, you know, now watching things online essentially, which is why this podcast and web series is going to be online. So, you know, just kind of a natural transition the way everything's going. So it'll be interesting to see where the business goes.
I've interviewed a few times over the past year with Brett Leonard, who most people know him for the Lawnmower Man. Okay. And he's doing these interesting things that where he's making they're called frag films. He's making a 90-minute film, breaking it up into 5 to 10 minute segments, putting it online. You download each segment. The first half of the movie is free. After that, you have to pay X amount of dollars to download each segment after that. And he says it because the audience he's trying to reach are the people who are sitting on a subway, sitting on a bus, waiting in a library for a friend, and they will watch that 5 to 10 minute segment of his film on their cell phone. Yeah. And that, he said, same thing we are discussing. You need to find a way to reach your audience, and this is the way to do it now. And he's finding success in it, and other people are starting to mimic that.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting because, so obviously, in addition to being the film commissioner here, being a filmmaker myself, shameless plug, film that I directed and produced, Running with Demons, along with my co-producer, J. Declan Flynn, releases on October 14th on video on demand and on Netflix. So check it out, Running with Demons. So in addition to being a filmmaker, I also am an adjunct film professor at the University of Tampa, Art Institute of Tampa. And so a lot of my students will ask, you know, what can I do to break into business? Or just people in general, you know, will email or call and ask, what can I do to break into business? And I tell them, do web series. Do web. Don't people want to make a pilot to try and sell it to a network? I was like, you are wasting your money and your time if you're going to do that. Put it online, do a web series, whatever your concept, whatever your idea is, just do it. Just make it and put it online. That is where everything is going and what you need to do with it, basically. So, well, let's bring in Mike, who is one of the owners here of Three Daughters Brewing, and get him to say a little bit something about the location. So here we are at Three Daughters Brewing with Mike Harding, who is one of the owners of Three Daughters Brewing. So Mike, thanks for being on the podcast, the webisode here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about where we're at?
Absolutely, and thanks for having us. We started about 3 years ago, brewing beer at a restaurant, and we were brewing it for a recipe ingredient. And we advanced that and moved into, why don't we just put it on tap? So we found a way to brew it and put it on tap in the restaurant. And we grew that into, we're going to build something. We're going to build a tap room or a tasting room next door to the restaurant. There was a little hair salon that became vacant. And we went out and looked at equipment, and we found what is behind us right now. And after my wife got over the initial shock, she agreed to let us build something bigger. And so we found this warehouse, and we decided we're gonna go for it. So we sold the restaurant, and we've been brewing beer since December now.
Okay, very cool.
It has been a huge challenge and the most fun we've ever had.
It's a great location. I've been in here before to relax and enjoy myself and have the beer, which is spectacular. And when the Wilson band, the Wilson brothers, did their concert here, that was a great night and a great event too. And so the name Three Daughters, I'm going to guess. I'll take a guess. You tell me if I'm right or wrong. You have 3 daughters?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, 11, 10, and 4.
Okay, great.
And they are the. Somebody asked us one day, why are you really doing this? It's outside of your scope, and you're kind of going all in. And half tongue in cheek, I said, we've got 3 little girls we need to send to college, and that just grew into the name.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I picked up on that. I'm obviously very brilliant because it was a very subtle naming convention there. So, well, good. Well, Mike, anything else you'd like to tell us about 3 Daughters? Any special events you've got coming up? Anything in particular you're doing?
We've got every Friday and Saturday we have live bands and we have food trucks, and it is a ton of fun. But I think bigger than that, it is that this industry is a lot of fun to come and visit. And whereas in the greater Tampa Bay area, we had one brewery, really just 2 years ago, 1 or 2, we now have 28 in the greater Tampa Bay area. And what you see around here is not uncommon in our industry. So if you come to Tampa, you've got Green Bench over here, and you've got us over here, and you've got Seventh Son up north, and you've got Cigar City, and you've got a great new brewery in Ybor City called Coppertail that just opened. Mm-hmm. So we have a whole brand new reason to come to Tampa.
Yeah, the whole St. Petersburg, Clearwater, Tampa area. It's a great mecca of craft brewing going on now. So
just started a year and a half ago.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, wonderful. Well, thanks for having us. And again, thanks for watching the video here and checking out the location. Stay tuned for episode 2 coming up. We don't know where it's going to be yet, but we'll figure it out, and you'll be able to find us here on YouTube. Thanks very much. Thanks for watching.